Hello, I'm Magnificent, Air Division Leader for the Total Recoil outfit on the Connery server. For this video I will be sharing my thoughts on the ESF secondary weapon, known as Hornets, while also demonstrating some uses for these weapons that I hope will help newer pilots discover how effective they can be. The Hornet missiles were introduced as part of a half-finished ESF overhaul nearly a year ago. When they were added to PlanetSide 2, Hornets were less efficient than rocket pods in just about every respect, while simultaneously managing to be more difficult to use. From what I can tell, the majority of pilots didn't seem to find much use for them, and the general consensus is that they aren't worth much. However, for those few of us who stuck it out, Hornets have become a trusted and effective tool. For myself, they have become a permanent part of my all-around loadout, and my primary ground attack choice. While Hornets have yet to be widely embraced by the community, I think it's only a matter of time before the secrets of these weapons gets out. So, when Hornet hits squads with a new meta, just remember, Magnificent loved them before they were cool. The Hornets are often described as operating with similar mechanics to that of the Engineer's AV turret. While not exactly wrong, it is this point where most people make the biggest mistaken assumption about Hornets. A lot of people seem to want to sit at max range and try to DPS down a target. They are understandably frustrated when this fails. Hopefully by the time this video is over, you'll have a better understanding of how to use these weapons to good effect. But first, let's discuss a few basics. As far as upgrade goes, grab thermal optics and max out your reload speed. Maximum ammo capacity is 60 missiles, and again I think it's worth the search to get them all. One of the advantages the Hornets bring is a deep reserve of ammunition, allowing a pilot to stay on station longer and provide more continuous coverage for ground forces. When starting out, Hornet users may find it handy to run with the stock nose gun because the smaller reticle makes precision aiming easier. The larger rotary reticles can make pinpoint precision difficult if you don't have a solid grasp on where the center of the aim point is. Later on, once you've gotten a feel for your aim point, feel free to switch to whatever nose gun you like most. Whenever learning a new skill, it's important to understand the fundamentals and start building from there. Learning to use the Hornet missiles is no different. Hornets are fired one missile at a time with the 2-missile magazine. When in first-person view, these shots will seem to originate off-center, below, and behind your point of view. This may seem a rather simple point to make, but if you don't understand where the missiles spawn when you fire, you're going to have a very hard time being accurate. One of the biggest benefits of the Hornets is that they can be extremely accurate. For example, my accuracy rating with the M18 rotary is about 36%, while my accuracy with the Hornets is closer to 70%. In my opinion, it is this high capacity for accuracy which starts to separate the Hornets from the more common rocket pod loadouts. While a good portion of this accuracy comes from being able to guide the path of the missiles after you fire, don't make the mistake of relying on this feature too heavily. As you'll see, your initial aim is vitally important. As I mentioned a moment ago, the missiles release with a little bit of distance between them, and then will converge on your aim point. This is important to keep in mind when firing on targets that are especially close range. If your target is inside the convergence range, such as this turret, you'll need to adjust your aim between shots if you want to hit with both, or back up. Because the missiles often seem to originate from behind your point of view, you'll notice a short lag time between release and being able to see the missile. During full-speed forward flight, this lag is further exaggerated, and it can make adjusting your shots during full-speed passes more difficult. The trick I've learned to help correct for this is to simply put aim with my feet. I found that pretending I was kicking a target as I flew by was a pretty effective way of hitting with my missiles, even when I couldn't see them. The projectile velocity of the Hornet is 125 meters per second. As best as I can tell, this is a magical velocity that is simultaneously slower than smell, while also being too fast to make easy aim adjustments. If you're expecting to just fire wherever and rely on the adjustable aim for accuracy, you're going to be missing a lot. You get some ability to track your target, true, but this is not an Engineer's AV turret. This is also why it becomes especially dangerous to try to hover at max range and DPS down a target with Hornets. The excessive travel time from your aircraft to your target means you are very likely to get swatted by any number of things long before you make your kill. This is also especially noticeable when firing on moving targets. Be sure to give plenty of lead and only rely on the so-called laser guidance to make fine adjustments. Finally, note how ascending while firing affects your accuracy. Since the missiles effectively originate below your point of view, when you add vertical thrust to the equation, you get some pretty weird results. Sometimes you may miss your target simply because the change in altitude is shifting your point of aim in ways that you don't necessarily notice. Sometimes you may never even see your missiles at all as they fly off into the distance, wasted. You'll notice this second case, especially when firing on enemy aircraft, because of the vertical thrust component that is part of so many aerial encounters. Take some time to practice getting a feel for hitting ground targets while ascending, and then try moving on to hitting air targets. Now that you've taken some time to understand all these basics, you should have a good feel for how the missiles behave from release to the point of impact. With practice, you'll get a good feel for how to aim, and for the timing of your shots. So we've got some basics and some fundamentals out of the way. Let's talk about tricks and tactics. Hornet ESFs are lions, your hunters. You stalk your prey, you pick out your targets carefully, and then you strike quickly and decisively. We work best in packs, but can still manage kills alone if we're picking the right targets. Separate out the weakest members of the herd. You see that black smoke trailing from the vanguard? That's a shoot me flag. He's first. Hornets are about burst damage, sudden death. Because all the damage hits at once, Hornets are great for those situations where hovering over a target is just not an option. Really heavy AA, lots of peons with ground lock-ons? No problem. Use some terrain to mask your approach, hit a target from the rear where it's weakest, and put a ton of damage down before they even know they are being targeted. You can't hit what you can't see. Float like a butterfly and sting like a lion. With max reload and good timing, it is possible to fire and hit with 4 Hornets in a single pass. 4 Hornets in the rear armor will kill a Lightning or an MBT. It's true that some hovering is an option when there is little threat to you, but try to remember that target fixation kills more pilots than even trees. If you're sitting still, eyes on the ground, focus on stepping on ants, you are just asking to get swatted by any number of things, especially other Hornet ESFs. We've discussed how ascending shots can be really difficult, especially in air-to-air situations. This is because of the vertical thrust component. One strategy I use to counter this is to fire the missiles intentionally high and then drop them down onto a target. I call this dragging for obvious reasons, but try not to say it out loud too often or the Vanu might overhear, misunderstand, and then attempt to recruit you. Rear armor shots are always preferable, but often you'll find that shooting down onto a target's top armor is easier and does nearly as much damage as a rear armor hit. This is especially useful when facing down MBT main guns, where dropping under the angle of maximum gun elevation to get at that rear armor is instant death. Top-down shots are also great against mag riders as they give you the largest surface area for aiming while limiting the effectiveness of strafing. Just remember not to hover for long and watch your altitude. Tankers are sour, angry folk and constantly looking to swat you. Hitting aircraft can be tricky, but the bigger they are, or the slower they are going, the easier they are to hit. Galaxies are thus the easiest aircraft to land hits on, being both big, slow, and generally piloted by infantry players with delusions of grandeur. Hornets make an excellent supplement for nose cannon damage, and you might be surprised at how fast you can flame a galaxy. Working your way to Liberators, Valkyries, and even other ESFs is just a matter of practice. Don't be afraid to miss. Sometimes you'll be surprised with what you can pull off. Maneuvering ESFs are tough to get. Often hitting an ESF is about timing more than aiming. Most of the ESFs I tag with Hornets catch a missile as they are making a head-on pass under me. Hornets do about 40% of an ESF's total health in damage, so kicking that enemy plane as it passes under can give me a huge advantage in a fight. Since the Hornets spawn low, I'm looking to shoot at targets below me and not using a lot of vertical thrust. Sometimes snapping off a Hornet or two can end a fight abruptly. While rocket pods are probably better AI suppression weapons, Hornets will kill infantry in a single direct hit. The splash damage is weak and the splash zone is tiny, so you need to be accurate, but the rewards for being so are huge. 2 near misses will strip infantry shields, so don't be afraid to follow up with a little nose gun if you weren't dead on. Maxes take only a little more work. Maxes can be taken from full health to dead in 2 missiles if they aren't running flak armor. Nothing says you love your infantry buddies like swooping in and plucking a max or medic out of the fight. My only regret is that burster maxes can't see my one-finger salute as I fly by. So, that's my take on the basics, as well as a few of my own tricks and techniques. It is my sincere hope that this video will help more pilots learn to love the Hornets as much as I do. I'd like to offer a special thanks to Matty Ace for releasing his own Hornet video tutorial earlier this week and making me look like the amateur that I am. You can find a link to his video here, but be warned, his American accent is clearly faked. Please feel free to comment below, subscribe to my channel or stream, or come find me on the live server and farm me for certs. Everyone else does. Thanks for watching.